Thanks for giving me this opportunity to have a brief talk on investigations or laboratory investigations in diabetes mellitus. Uh, First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Mahesh Babu sir, as he has already explained us while monitoring the treatment or while monitoring the doses of insulin or even oral hypoglycemic, how it should be monitored with the help of blood glucose levels. And I will go into the more of the laboratory part, and I will just explain, or I will just give a brief idea of what are the investigations which are used in the laboratory for the diagnosis, management, and monitoring of long-term effect in diabetes mellitus. So as I have told, I am going into the aspect of laboratory side in case in the diabetes mellitus. So first of all, I'll just let you know what are the investigations that are used in the laboratory for the diabetes mellitus, or what is the purpose of this test which we perform in the laboratory, or which are ordered from the clinician side. So most important thing is these laboratory tests are used for screening of the normal populations or the suspected populations. The second is for diagnosis, and the third is monitoring of diabetes mellitus and the consequences or the long-term effect of the diabetes mellitus. Regular laboratory evaluation to assist in the glycemic management and to monitor the development of diabetes related to complications. These are the basically important uses of laboratory evaluation or laboratory tests that are used in the diabetes. So what are these tests? So first of all, we have to see which is the target population for screening, which is the target population which should be screened, or which is the suspected population that should be screened for diabetes. So screening of adults above the age of 45 years of age, adults which are at risk, that is obese, overweight adults, and the adolescent which are also have a family history or we have other associated risk factors, pregnant women or women who are planning to become pregnant or who are planning pregnancy in near future. So these all people should be screened. Diagnosis of diabetes mellitus should be done with the help of confirmatory testings. And other part which is used in the testing is monitoring of adherence to glycemic targets. So what are the glycemic targets? As sir has already told, in the inpatients, which should be the glycemic targets, or what are the glycemic targets at various stages of the management of the inpatient. So the glycemic control should be monitored with the help of the laboratory investigations. The initial testings or initial test what is performed in the diabetes are the fasting plasma glucose, oral glucose tolerance test, random plasma glucose, and the HbA1c. So first of all, we will go into these tests which are used for the screening or diagnosis of diabetes. So first of all, we will see HbA1c. Basically, HbA1c is a test which evaluates the average amount of glucose in the blood over last 2 to 3 months, and it has mostly replaced all other tests for screening or even for the diagnostic purpose. So if in initial testing, if we find out fasting glucose, glucose tolerance test, and random glucose or A1C test, so these are the cutoff criteria which are used for the to categorize the patient or the normal population into normal, pre-diabetes, and diabetes stage. So HbA1c level below 5.7 is considered as normal. Blood glucose level below 99 milligram per dl is also considered as a normal population. GTT, which is not impaired if it is a levels of glucose are below 140. So this is a basically a classification of or a normal cutoff at the normal levels for populations. Then we have in between category, that is pre-diabetes. Here, if the HbA1c values are between 5.7 to 6.4, it is a HbA1c, it is a pre-diabetes stage. The same for fasting blood glucose if the levels are between 100 to 125 milligram, or if the GTT is between 140 to 199 milligram, it is the category which is a cutoff for pre-diabetes patient. And finally, a diabetes population is considered, or a criteria or diagnostic criteria is considered when a fasting plasma glucose is more than 126, or 2 hours postprandial during OTT is more than 200, A1C value more than 6.5, or a random plasma glucose if it is more than 200, These are the basically a cutoff criteria for diagnosis of diabetes. So these are the diagnostic criteria for diabetes where the cutoff values are fixed. Now, same way, if we consider a gestational diabetes mellitus, the diagnostic criteria are slightly different. Here, generally, OT or oral glucose tolerance test is performed, where the cutoffs are given as a fasting. It should be below 92. 1 hour glucose should be below 180. 2 hours glucose, it should be below 153. So this was the one. This is a one-step approach. There is one more approach, which is a two-step approach, where the fasting glucose should be considered below 95. 1 hour glucose should be considered below 180. 2 hour glucose should be considered below 155, and a 3 hour glucose should be considered below 145 for a normal glucose tolerance test. So any values above this can be used as a criteria for diagnostic criteria for diabetes, gestational diabetes mellitus. The one more important thing in this respect is basically a single value or a single test value is result of any one test is not a diagnostic. It needs to be confirmed on one or more occasion or two or more occasions so as to classify as a diabetes, because many times there are many other factors from the laboratory side itself. There may be some pre-analytical errors. There may be some issues in the patient preparation, or patient may not be adherence to a strict fasting diet. So a single value or single abnormal value do not classify as a diabetes, and it should be confirmed on two or more occasions so as to classify it as a diagnostic value of diabetes. So these are the initial testing that should be done in a diabetes, which are used in the diagnosis of diabetes. The next we are going to see is the secondary testing. What are the secondary testing that are used for the in the laboratory, or what can be used in the what are available in the laboratory in the management and evaluation of diabetes in a patient. So these are diabetes related antibodies. Now we have seen there are many established facts which suggest autoimmune etiology in case of type 1 diabetes mellitus. So these antibodies can be used as a study for the etiological factors in type 1 diabetes mellitus. So these are diabetes related antibodies. Testing can be useful in establishing autoimmune etiology and to exclude the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes mellitus in adults. So this is a use where autoimmune antibodies can be used in the etiology to determine the etiology of type 1 diabetes. So what are these antibodies? These include islet antibodies, insulin antibodies, glutamic acid antibody, decarboxylase antibodies, insulinoma associated antigen 2, and zinc transporter antibodies. So these are some of the antibodies which can be present in the autoimmune diabetes or in type 1 diabetes mellitus. But the important thing here should be noted is that persistence of 2 or more of these autoantibodies is only a predictor of clinical diabetes mellitus. So whenever you are ordering any of these tests, it should be taken care that minimum 2 of these antibodies should be ordered for determining the etiology, because many of these antibodies are the single antibody may be present in an individual, and the person may not be suffering from the diabetes. So whenever care should be taken. So whenever we are prescribing or whenever we are testing for autoimmune etiology for these antibodies, minimum 2 or more than 2 autoantibodies should be tested in an individual to determine the autoimmune etiology. The next is C-peptide. Basically, it is useful for diabetic follow-up of diabetic complication, and it has a laboratory value that it is a good diagnostic property in the diabetic neuropathy. So levels of C-peptide are used to predict the progression of the diabetes and the effect of diabetic neuropathy on long-term effects. The next test is insulin test, where as we know, it is underlying physiological abnormality of the insulin, which is the underlying cause of diabetes mellitus. So sometimes insulin test can also be done for determining the abnormality in physiology of insulin metabolism. The next important investigation is urine or blood ketone levels. This urine and blood ketone level determination is useful for the diagnosis of ketoacidosis. So in ketoacidosis, we know that in urine, acetone can be detected with the help of dipstick method, whereas in blood, beta hydroxybutyric acid, which is also ketone body, can be detected in the blood. So the determination of these ketone bodies is the promote the definitive diagnosis of ketoacidosis. So whenever a patient is suspected of ketoacidosis, urine testing for ketone bodies and blood testing for ketone bodies should be done. The next investigation is urine microalbumin. Urine microalbumin test can detect very small levels of albumin in urine. That is why it is called microalbumin, because it detects even a smallest change in the smallest appearance of albumin in the urine. Basically, this test determines the incipient diabetic kidney disease or a diabetic nephropathy. So basically, urine microalbumin is the first marker that the person is progressing to the diabetic nephropathy. So urine microalbumin can be done on a periodical basis to determine the long-term effect of diabetes and to see whether the patient is actually progressing to the nephropathy or is not. After that, here I have included some miscellaneous investigations for the inpatient. When a patient comes with the diabetic ketoacidosis or hyperglycemic hyperosmolar state. So here I have mentioned some of the investigations which can be used as a diagnostic criteria for two of these conditions. It includes plasma glucose, arterial pH, serum bicarbonate, urine ketone, serum ketone, whereas this urine ketone and serum ketone we have already discussed, serum osmolarity, anion gap, and a clinically determined mental status. So these are some of the parameters which can be used as a diagnostic criteria for diabetic ketoacidosis as well as hyperglycemic hyperosmolar state. The next is molecular analysis. These are some of the tests which studies the specific gene mutation that is associated with maturity onset of diabetes in young and as well as neonatal diabetes mellitus. So these are the tests which can be done in individuals who are detected as of new cases of diabetes during the age group of 25 to 35, where we basically we call them as a maturity onset of diabetes of young, or the cases of neonatal diabetes which are detected within the neonatal period. So in such cases, there are some molecular analysis tests that can be done, and out of the total number, a small set of patients, which includes around 2 to 3% of this patient of diabetes, which have not show the characteristics of type 1 and diabetes and have a single gene defect that interferes in the insulin production, secretion, and action. So this molecular analysis can be done with the help of next generation sequencing, whole genome sequencing, or exome sequencing for clinically challenging phenotype. So here I have mentioned some of the mutations in the AGPET genes, BSCL2 genes, CAVI1 and PTRF, as well as LMNA, PPARG and AKT2 genes and PLIN1. So these are some of the genes which are associated with this maturity onset diabetes of young as well as neonatal diabetes mellitus. So basically these are the molecular analysis tests where generally these tests are used for research purpose or maybe to find out the actual etiology of the diabetes. So with this, I'll be concluding my session on the laboratory investigations in diabetes.
Immense pleasure in thanking Dr. Mahesh Babu sir and Dr. Jayesh sir for spending their time with us with an elaborate and informative talk. I hope all the attendees and participants got that point. There are a lot of taking points in their talk, and Meenakshi Mission takes immense pleasure, and Meenakshi Labs provides all the available tests that Jayesh has already listed out, except for those research-based tests, which we will be taking steps to provide shortly. I thank the management team of Meenakshi Labs who take immense steps to bring out this upgrade program every month. I thank the coordinators of this upgrade program, the marketing team, the comparer, the EDP team for the connectivity and the hardware connected to it. And last but not the least, I thank all the participants who have been there till the end, patiently listening to the talk. Thank you all.